Ok, folkens, da sier vi velkommen til Baddy. Det blir veldig spennende. Hva skal du si?
Ja, thank you. That was quick. Så jeg vil ikke snakke, og jeg vil ikke tale norsk, men jeg forstår norsk, kommer fra Island. Men jeg tror det er ikke godt for jeg presenterer det på norsk. Er det okay? So, when I'm switching to English, we can also do it in Icelandic. Probably you would understand my Icelandic better than you understand my broken Danish. So my name is Baddy. Thank you very much for inviting me to come here. It's my first time in Oslo. I'm really impressed of the 10 Teslas I've seen so far.
Only 10?
I think I've been outside on the streets here for 20 minutes and I've already seen 10 Teslas. I haven't even seen one in Germany. So that says a lot. So just very shortly, so normally I do this presentation in 2 presentations, and each for 45 minutes. I have 30 minutes now, because there's actually a big topic which is difficult to put into a 30-minute talk. So my plan here is just to go a little bit briefly through this, like go quick through it, but I'm available for chat and talk afterwards all day and also tomorrow. Very shortly about myself. I'm a co-founder of intranett. It's a company with offices in Germany and in Spain, but we also have an office basically at our clients in Reykjavik. I'm also since the beginning of this year a board member of the Drupal Association, heavily involved in Drupal since 2011, and also one of the organizers of Drupal Europe. I hope that some of you, at least some of you, were there. Thank you. Thank you, Jan. So yeah, we are 23 people and we do a lot with distributions. So DeGov, we do the OpenEDU together with a Canadian company which focuses on higher education. The Drupal Commerce, we do a lot. The Thunder, I'm also going to be in the Thunder Day, which is going to be in the end of November if you're interested in that. And then just generally Drupal and React development, which is the focus at the moment. So here are a couple of pictures of our team. But the agenda would be number 1, so I switched it around just earlier because I thought maybe we could just start with the city of Reykjavik. So I'm going to briefly talk about what the city of Reykjavik is doing with Drupal and what they've been doing with Drupal, and we've been working with them since 2012 or 13, and we are just the main partner working with Drupal in the city of Reykjavik, as well as the television in Reykjavik, the University of Iceland, and basically all large organizations in Iceland. I'm going to showcase you very briefly an application builder and system that we created, and then I'm going to go into the DeGov. I'm going to explain to you first what is a distribution, so everybody just understands what is a distribution and how can you use a distribution. So you can use it in 2 ways, either as a starter kit or as a product. So I'm going to explain that a bit. I'm going to talk briefly about the DeGov functionality and then showcase you take screenshots just of 2 things that have been going out now. The Ministry of Interior in NRV, North Rhine-Westphalia, and also the archive system of that same state, which is the largest state in Germany. So let's start. So I'm just making sure that I don't go over time. So let's start with the city of Reykjavik. Has anybody been there? Yeah. Okay, few of you. Good, so some facts. I hope you can read it, yeah. So Iceland has 332,000 people, of which 122,000 live in the city of Reykjavik, which is about 40% of the country. The city of Reykjavik has about 12,000 employees, because the structure is very different from how it is, for example, in Germany, because in the city of Reykjavik, everything is in the city. So it's the Scandinavian model, like the schools and everything's controlled from the city. So 10% of the citizens in the city of Reykjavik, they work at the city of Reykjavik. They've been using Drupal since 2011. All large websites and web portals are made with Drupal. But then they have like 150 plus web properties running around, like it's in WordPress, Joomla, Content XSL, and there's a lot of homegrown systems from Icelandic companies that they have created their own CMS systems. So another thing about the city of Reykjavik, well, it's probably not different from how it is here, though I don't know how it is here, but the city of Reykjavik has an IT department, which is located here. And then they have the digital department, who are supposed to take care of the digital services, which is located here. So we are often very much here in the middle. So that's not simple, but these are challenges that we've been going through with them for a long time, how we can make these two departments actually communicate, because there's a lot of frustration always going on, but it's been improving and it is always getting better. So I'm going to talk about a couple of relevant challenges that we are having at the moment at the city. So we always have challenges there, but all the Drupal sites need to be migrated to Drupal 8. For those who were in Drupal Europe, you heard about Drupal 9 because of end of life of Symfony. That is in Drupal 8, so we need to get everything over to Drupal 8 so we can get everything over to Drupal 9 when that happens in 2020 or 21. Then there is this EU things that needs to happen in Europe generally, that digital service toward the citizens needs to be improved or created. It means that we need to digitalize all the processes that we have in the city. At the moment there is no centralized design, so you can imagine all these 200 web properties that we looked at, or they are made by companies like us in here, and we're not necessarily talking with each other. So the design and the logos that are being used is just random. So there's no centralized design or any online style guide or anything like that. The IT is a bottleneck because they are just not quick enough. Things today need to happen really quickly. So something is going to happen next month, there's going to be a big event in Reykjavik, and things just there needs to be a website. So the IT just cannot, they don't have the resources to take care of that, and there's just not enough experts to do all this stuff, which ends up very often that the department themselves, they just go and they do it themselves, which is terrible, because then they knock on the door one day before they should go live, they come to the IT and say like, hey, I have this page made in WordPress, let's make that an example, we need to host it somewhere. So, I see smiles here, so I think that you all know the same story. So there are hosting challenges, there are security risks, because how are you going to maintain, make sure that this is all under control. There are maintenance issues, and there's a lot of cost issues involved. So, these are the challenges that we have now, and we are constantly taking one of these challenges and just take it away. So currently, we are working on making an online style guide for the whole city and create a design system for them, and we are working on a digital service improvement. Here is the first migration project from Drupal 7 over to Drupal 8 that we're doing. So this is the intranet of the city of Reykjavik, and that is going to be put into the new Drupal 8 system, so the migration has already been done. It actually went pretty smooth. At the same time, we of course just made the design a little bit nicer, and the city of Reykjavik also decided to move over to Facebook Workplace, which I'm not going to go into details here about why I don't think it is a good idea, with the 12,000 employees costing $1 per employee per month. I would love to see that money rather go into the local development companies than going to Facebook, plus all the information that's going to be in there, but that is not the talk that we are going to have here. So therefore there's a lot of functionality in the old intranet that we are actually not using because they are putting in, or they have been using Facebook now for internal communication at the city of Reykjavik. This is the main website, reykjavik.is, also a Drupal website. A lot of focus on the search, and again a lot of content which is not so simple to find. Here we have the Visit Reykjavik. This is one of the most visited pages from the city of Reykjavik, as this is for all the tourists, because Iceland is in and has been now for 2 years. Let's see how long that's gonna last. We have the Art Museum of Reykjavik. We have the City of Literature with information about all literature that has been made in the city, who are the authors, what books have been created. And then we have this beautiful page, which is not in Drupal, but the reason why I'm showing you that is this is the Icelandic, this is there for the citizens, this so-called My Pages. So basically today, this is a system that was created by the city of Reykjavik, and this is a monster that they just almost can't get out of, because in here there are around about, I think, how many did I say? Okay, there's like everything that is green. These are like the applications that you can make in the city online. Everything that is yellow is like applications that are sent electronically, but they're not going to be like handled through the system. And then there are all the blue ones that are just PDFs. And of course on top we have all the green ones, but the more you go and scroll down you see more and more blue ones, which are just PDFs. So the challenge here is that firstly this is too big. It is impossible to maintain this, and you can imagine the word GDPR in relationship to this. So therefore the challenge is here, how do we handle this without building another monster? So how can we build a system, an application system, that is only focusing on the service toward the citizens, and the applications are taken care of somewhere else? So we have simple, we call these services, because we have like simple services. One is like, I bought a dog, I need to get a permit for the dog. Another thing is like, I have a tree in my garden and I want to be able to take down the tree. You have to get the license from the city. Then you have the complex services, which are like, I want to put my child, or register my child to a school. Or I want to register my child to the after-school activities or daycare, or fristund, which is the activity part, what you do in the summer. So for each and every one of these 100 plus services that are in the city, you have different departments taking care of almost every single service. Some of them are web-based, like we saw before, but others are paper and pencil. So the challenge is now we want to digitalize this and put this into a digital form. So we took the dog application and we took that as the first one. We said like, so we got the PDF. And then we looked at the PDF and we started to, now let's build a form. And we built a form from them so we could like do the application online. And then there was like on this application there was something like, get a recommendation. You have to get 2 recommendations if you have a dog in Reykjavik. And then you're like, why do you have to get a recommendation? From whom? Well, from a person who is like a valid person, like whatever that means. So we said, okay. So we went to them and said like, hey, these 2 things here, there's like, you need to get a recommendation. For what is that? The person who takes care of it is like, I don't know. Like, yeah, but it is in there. It's like, yeah, but it was always in there. So can anybody say why it is in there? No. Can we take it out? I don't know. So just taking one example application, which is a very simple application, when you take the PDF that has been existing there for very many years, you want to put that into a form and think about every single element again, that can take a while, right? So how did we approach this project? We were very inspired with how they're doing in Stanford University, where they're using microservices for everything. What does it mean? And I'm going to go into a very short part of a technical part of it. It basically means like this. The blue part here is just a very, very lightweight, it's called mypages.reykjavik.is. It's just, the only thing it does, it communicates with a lot of services and talks to it and says like, what can the person do? And it says like, here you go, here is the application. This layer will make it simple for the maintenance, because regardless of if this application, the school application, is coming from some school system which is maybe written in some completely different system, and then you have all these, for the citizen, he needs to be able to go on one place and just be able to do what he does and in the same way, right? That's the goal. Then you create the service components that wrap up the business logic. So what we actually do is that we authenticate with the ICE key, we authenticate the people into the blue one, So the ISP says like, hey, this is Baddy, and she has 2 children, and she lives there, and she's married to this guy, and all that. And then we say like, what is Baddy allowed to do? And then you go and you speak to the services that then speak to the APIs. I can go into more details with you about this later, but what we are basically doing with these services, we are taking the application information and we are wrapping them up in a JSON form. So we basically just put a JSON form up where people can then put in the information. So we send just JSON things up to the lightweight form that never has to do anything or know anything. Everything comes up with a JSON form, gets displayed, and as soon as somebody presses save, it just gets sent down to the correct place and it works. So, you can also get the slides afterwards. So currently now the first version is in the test phase. We have created even an application builder, which is like, we built one of this here for all the PDFs, because all the PDFs obviously don't have their own systems. So we also created here in Drupal an application builder where they can also just create their own content types with our applications that then get sent up. And just like before it was like finalized from the design, I'm just gonna increase the speed here. You know, you go and you authenticate through the ICE key, and now you're just a citizen. Hey. Hey. Let me see. You authenticate, you see here the open applications. You're asked like, what do you want to apply for? You find your application, you want to apply for the dog application. All this form, all the validation and everything is actually coming from below. So this system that we're speaking to now, what you're looking at, that doesn't know anything except just it displays and takes data. It means also that this system is very GDPR friendly, right? We are not storing any data. And where are we putting that problem? Well, into the department who's taking care of the applications. So that was one of the main things that we are going from in this case. And the validation also. So I'm not gonna, go into any details. In a normal presentation, I would also show you like, I would go through also how you create an application, how you embed the application into this layer above and all that. So this is a little bit, again here, I want to just go briefly to this part here. So before I stop with the city of Reykjavik and just jump into the DeGov part. So there's a lot of challenges going on, and I think that you have the same challenges. The digital department of the city of Reykjavik is very willing to have a conversation with all of you. We at OneXInternet are very happy to have a conversation with all the developers and the companies who are working here, and we should just try to do something together to make this better, and not just every single one of us try to figure this out in our own little corners. So that would be the goal. Which leads to the next part of the presentation, because I'm already, I only have 10 minutes. Sorry, I will probably also speak really quick. That's about Drupal distributions. And that is like, why are we building a Drupal distribution? And what is a Drupal distribution? So now I'm moving to Germany. So I fly over to Frankfurt, where we have been having camps like this, and we have all been seeing that we are a lot of companies that are also doing this for different states and cities and communes in Germany. So we sat together and we decided to create a distribution called DeGov, which is focusing on the German market, but I don't think that it has, it probably also could be focusing on any other governmental market or, So distribution is basically a configuration which includes the Drupal core and then everything else that you need and would always do in every single project that you're doing inside of your governmental space. Distributions come with an installer, so this is like the installer for Thunder, and they just basically allow you to reuse pre-created functionality. So that is why the reason why we decided to do, because we were seeing is that the city, or like the state of Hessen or the state of NRW in Germany, they also have the same problem as the city of Reykjavik. They have all these websites and they are all created in a different way. Some are created with paragraphs, others are created with field collections, others are created just with, let's say, Gutenberg, which is going to be talked about today later. Something is done with that. So it's all done in a different way. So what we try to do there is that we try to standardize certain things so it can just be reused every single time. This is a drawing that I try to, when I try to explain what the distribution DeGov is, we talk about it in 4 layers. So the base layer is Drupal 8, right? And then we decided to use Acquia Lightning, which is a distribution that was created. Back then when we made the decision, it was because of the extensive media part in Acquia Lightning, which is now all in core. But it doesn't matter, it still comes with a lot of functionality that we need. So this is the base system layer. Then we start with the distribution. So what we put in there is like what every single website has in common. So it could be, there's a basic page configuration there, there's maybe events, there's a news page, there is some standardized paragraphs that we are always using, which is, for example, text or image text or slideshow, hero banner. And then you come into the context layer. And the context layer is, for example, school pages, kindergarten pages, application. So they can be different. There's also like the search engine part, for example, in NRW. They have their own data, which we create a search engine for that. So that doesn't fit into the core layer, because the search engine that we are using in NRW is not working for the state of Hessen. Because in the state of Hessen we are talking to a completely different base set of data. And then on top you have a project layer, and that is the website. So I hope you get what I'm going there. And so basically the distribution DeGov for the state of NRW is actually, the distribution DeGov only is this 2 here, but for the state of NRW, we also add in the context layer. Meaning that when we are going to do this for Hessen, we take these 2 here again, and then we add all the special functionality that Hessen needs, which is for example, theme that they want to have because they have things different than how they have it in NRW, if you think about these 2 states. So why are we doing it? And what are we putting into this core? And now I'm going to focus on the core layer here. So the core layer, what are we going to be reusing? So performance optimization, which is a very typical thing. We want our websites to end up looking like this on Google Insights, right? We want them to be accessible, we want them to be secure, we want them to be quick. And this also very often results in the theme, so what is actually how it is going to look like. But the more you standardize, for example, the theme for your case, the more we can actually optimize here. So when you turn on the page, you get a page that is just like that, until the developer starts breaking that, who are doing the front end. But it doesn't even only have to be from, if you think about accessibility perspective, accessibility. The same thing is happening there. We make sure that the backend for the editors are also accessible, which is a conflict potentially with Gutenberg, at least at the moment in WordPress. And this is something that I want to make as an add-on here, is that if you are thinking about using something like WordPress, and now with a new core coming with Gutenberg, there is a lot of discussion if that is, for example, standard, accessible for the editors to use. And there's a lot of conversation happening now in the WordPress community about that. So this is also something that you have to make sure that you have a core that is working and that is also, fitting to the standards that you need to have. And we just know that every single day Apple is coming out with some new device that has some crazy breakpoints, and everybody starts buying that. Then we start configure that image breakpoints and like optimize the images based on that, and we put that into core so everybody else can benefit from that as soon as it comes. And if you think about something like in every single project, if you have a large site, configuration of image types and configuration of sizes and breakpoints and display and all that should work everywhere, it can easily take up to 10 man days just to configure something like that in a real way so it gets like the green light. So you're saving a lot if you use something that is already there. Same happens with, there's all this content, flexible content, there's this content elements that we are always using. They look different, so we're not talking about that everything needs to look the same, just to make that really clear. We are only talking about that we don't want to, and our developers, they don't want to build the same stuff again and again and again, and we should not spend our money in building yet another slideshow, or yet another, full with image part or FAQs. So instead, we should have it ready, so we can reuse it and then just make it beautiful and then add to that and let our developers work on the innovation and the new stuff. Same as with the common pages, if you're a developer in this group, how often have you built a news content type? Is it not always the same? It's a title, image, body, date, author. Then there's some sharing on it. Let's put that into the core. Or it is in DeGov already in core. The same with media file, or with media. And then, not to forget, when something comes up like GDPR, we just need to make sure that all the pages get updated really quickly, and that you can, for example, do by putting something like GDPR compliance into the web forms of the core that you're then using. So, if you are preparing, or if you create a solid Drupal distribution, you can actually save a lot of money, even though it costs a lot of money to create it. You also will have much happier developers, because they are not yet again building the next news part. And of course, you're having less risk in the maintenance of this all. Yeah, it says a lot about how old I am, right? So what we always try to say, and this is maybe saying from what Jan said earlier, like don't convince your client that something is just free because it is free open software, It costs money to create something like this. And a rock solid distribution that has the needs that you need. And now I'm talking about the next layer after the core that we already maybe in DeGov have created. But when you want to then make it for yourself, it can easily take up to 100 man days to do something like that. But it will speed up your development time in the long run. So you are investing in the future, and it will decrease the maintenance time of maintaining all this 180 or plus or something things that you saw before in the city of Reykjavik, which is basically just unmaintainable. So how do we actually then use it as a Drupal distribution? Now we have DeGov, so what is it? You can either use it as a starter kit for your project, or you can use it as a product, and now I'm going to talk about the difference. A starter kit is something like this. You select the functionality that you want to use from distribution. You remove all the other functionality by just taking it out, and then you start adding in new stuff. So this just means that you are just building from this starter kit, and then it grows from there. Another option is to do it as a product, and you can choose what you do. And in the product part, you actually just select the desired functionality, just like you did before. But instead of removing it, you actually just disable the other functionality that you're not going to use, with the option that you can actually sometime later just turn it on again. So you can have it all afterwards. So if we compare it, so a distribution as a starter kit, that's it's easy to extend, it's easy to maintain as well, but there's no upgrades that you're getting. So if there comes up the GDPR thing, it's not necessary, it is of course, theoretically it's possible to take the module and put it in, but you don't get it upgraded, the distribution itself, with that new functionality. But if you use it as a product, you will get the upgrades. So if there is some new functionality, let's make an example. The Hessen decides on something that is so good that the state of NRV says like, hey, we want that too. We put that in the layer number 2, and everybody gets upgraded to that. But the cons about that part is also if you extend the functionality of your distribution for your project, it also means that you have to create the upgrade path and everything, so that is also working for everybody else. So, I know this was a very quick way of explaining it. I hope that you understand what I'm talking about, but please feel free to ask afterwards. So, let me see. So, I want to give you 2 advices before I show you the cases in the state of NRV. Both are from Mike Miles, who is from the user group in Boston. They have also been talking and doing a lot of distribution. He says like, if you want to build a distribution, you have to remember you're not building a single site. And this I'm going to put into the head of all Drupal agency owners that are in here having conversation with people who are working in the government. Because they potentially want to have it exactly how it is built today. And they want to add to that. But you have to make sure that you abstract the problems and you really try to create a solid base for them. And this maybe is, you're going to be dealing with many different teams that have different expertise. So the people working in the government, they want to have it in a certain way, but not everything is a need to have. If you're going to build a distribution that will have a success, you have to make sure that that distribution also stays very small and clean so everybody else can start using it. You have to make wise decisions of what to add to it and what not. Just like how the team of the core committers of Drupal are also making decisions of what should go into Drupal or not. So we are not just putting in the React stuff into Drupal right away unless it has been very well tested and checked how it works before it goes close to core. And this needs to be there needs to be done the same thinking when you're creating a distribution. So DeGov is a Drupal 8 distribution. It's open source. It means that everybody can use it. It's made from, we were 3 companies in Germany that did this together. Now there's more companies adding to it. So we basically have this set of functionalities that are commonly being used inside of the governmental space and application that we put in there. So there are websites, and there have been at least like probably 20 websites done already, and some of them are very large. So national, regional, local government organization, intranets, citizen participation portals, and so on. So we have content types in there, very similar for those who have been looking at OpenEDU for the higher education. This one is focusing on the government, the other one is focusing on higher education. So you can imagine in higher education you're thinking more about like classes, departments, professors and profiles. But here we are more focusing on blogs, press release, event, newsletter issues, FAQs. Then we have like, these are the paragraphs that are in. There are all types of paragraphs that can be added to every single page. It's a map paragraph, slide, slideshow, text, subtitle, video, and then you can embed a lot of media. And what we did in this distribution is that we use the media element for everything that is reusable. Meaning that you can have a fact or a testimonial, for example. Testimonial that you want to reuse everywhere. We use the media entity for everything that you want to reuse, because paragraphs are not so simple to reuse on other pages. So the NRV, which is North Rhine-Westphalia, they have dedicated themselves to use Drupal in everything. And we created the DeGov, and on top of the DeGov we created then the NRV-Gov. And just now in summer there was a tender that was actually worth of 6.5 million euros that was made, and in the tender, there were 3 slots. The tender said maintenance and development of DeGov and of NRV-Gov, because for them it's crucial that that goes working. So there's a tender going on now, which is finalizing now in Germany, that has DeGov and NRV-Gov, because they have made this decision to go there. The tender are also focusing on implementing websites with DeGov and NRV-Gov in the state of NRV, and to extend the functionality. So they are focusing on, of course, the DeGov, which is in the layer, it's the third part, which is like their part. But they also want to make sure that we are putting in as well for the DeGov what is needed for there, so the state of Hessen and all other states can also use it. So the first large DeGov project was the Ministry of Interior in NRV. We were 10 developers. I think from our team it was probably 8 developers, and there were 2 from another team, and then the project management was done by the third company. We went live in May. And this site is just, this is a good example of GDPR compliance. For example, everything that comes from the DeGov, from the social media module, it's always automatically disabled. It means that you have to, as a user, opt in. So you have to go here into the social media settings, and there you can actually say if you want yes or no to have certain things embedded on your site. This was very important for the state, so therefore this is part of their distribution. We don't know yet if this is going to go into the DeGov standard distribution, but most likely that is going to go there. So first it starts up here, and then it will go then more down, and hopefully one day it will just go into Drupal 4. Right? There's also the search is very powerful in their distribution with all the facets, so you can search the media. This basically comes out of the box also like this. So when you install for DeGov, you install a new website, it almost just looks like this, you just have to start changing the content. Another showcase is the National Archive portal. This is just the final slide, I think. Which is the second largest DeGov project that has been created. Again, like 8 developers, it took 10 months to do it. And this is just an intranet application as well as for the archives. This is the state of NRV. For the archives in NRV, every single archive wants to have their own website. And we have like, I think 490 archives. So each one of them can actually have their own site showing the archives that are in their own city. So like all these archives are here for every single city. There's an archive, but you can always go on the Landis archive and then find everything you want, also in the big picture. This was then done with a group module, where we allow the editors to only be able to edit their own archive. It is just going live, hopefully before the end of the year. And there's just an integration with Google Maps. This is the archive search. It's a very powerful search where you can find all the archives, the 490 archives. This is an example of a start page for an archive. Of course, it has its own location, and it has a different content type, and even contact data, and even a different photo, of course, because the different city. And then when you can log in, we also it comes up a little bit. We have made it a little bit nicer in the DeGov from the backend for the editor, so it's not that clunky like maybe Drupal is sometimes out of the box. Here we are also doing a lot of JSON, and this is actually written in React. The search here, where we are just having other microservices, because the data itself is not stored in Drupal. The data itself is stored in some other data center system that is very complex. What they say, but it's only data. Yeah, so sorry for going 5 minutes over time. If you have questions, then please just come to me. Again, if you want me to connect you from the government space to any people in these, what I mentioned here before, please feel free to come and talk to me. Okay.